there's one thing that I'm not looking forward to in this game is Peter's 12 years old face. Okay, jokes aside, there's no doubt that the gameplay and the story of Spider-Man 2 are going to be amazing, but that leaves us with the question of what might happen exactly, what nightmares or plot twists can we expect. One thing that they will cover far better than we have in our minds is that they will have amazing villains in this game. I mean, a hero is only good as their villain, right? It's a good year to be a Spider-Man fan. We all know that the game will include Kraven, Venom, and after the recent gameplay, also Lizard, Black Cat, Prowler, Tombstone, Wraith, the former police ally of Peter named Yuri, and also Rhino, Electro, Vulture, and none other than
Shocker!
But what about the possibilities of the whole story? There are several routes Insomniac can take with the storyline, especially since we saw how more aggressive Peter has got with the Black Symbiote and how it seems he stopped pulling his punches up to an extent.
You have no idea.
Creative director Brian Intihar said, "We have content designed around Peter, we have content designed around Miles, and we have content where you can play either. You'll be able to, in the open world, freely switch between them with a simple button press. So we'll have a good combination of GTA 5 and a game with multi-Spideys like shared dimension of different scales in one pack. I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man games, especially of Shadows despite the notable issues it has, and up to this day it's one of my favorite superhero games. The mechanism used in the game that allows you to switch between Dark Suit and normal Spidey and different skill trees for them and how you could combine many things in the fighting styles you had is one of the things I'm dying to see how it will handle in this game. We see a small icon when Peter arrives at the top left screen that might indicate how we can switch between these two. One can only hope. The combat shown us in the showcase already looked pretty cool, and how we can switch between Peter and Miles with the sense of familiarity yet different styles of their gameplay will surely add to all of our hypes and expectations. One of the things that might be teased or completely had work done over in this game is Morgan Michaels, aka the Morbius.
It's Morbin time.
We also saw him in the first game, and he can have a showdown in this game as the living vampire we all know him to be, and if not a complete section for itself, it can make its way for the third game as an introduction for characters like Blade and other creatures like Werewolf by Night, etc. It would be cool to fight Morbius. Imagine chasing him through the city while using web gliders and swinging, have him pop up like Taskmaster but at night this time, and have surprise fights. But also it might be too much for this game.
You sure? He's got big teeth.
So do I.
Most of us might think that the identity of Venom would be Harry Osborn, since we saw something symbiotic in this tank as a tease at the end of the first game and also in Miles Morales' game. But according to the gameplay, it might seem like he would never change to Venom, and it might be Peter who loses himself in his negative feelings like anger, and that pushes Peter to become Venom. And with that, there are tons of potentials, and ironically, something I don't think Insomniac dares to, but I hope that they do, is that Peter as Venom turns up to kill Miles' mother, kind of like what happened in the Ultimate Comics all-new Spider-Man 22. And that can turn into a very dark path with lots of twists and difficult topics to handle, so that's why Insomniac would probably avoid that and go along with Harry Osborn or Kraven even, since it was confirmed by Insomniac that Eddie Brock will not be Venom in this game. He will still work in Daily Bugle alongside with Mary Jane that is now owned by JJJ. And for God's sake, I really do hope that they do something about MJ's repetitive missions, or at least if they don't want to change anything, just make less of them. I just hope they give it a break on Mary Jane missions, because they used to be like, I can't say completely boring, but depending on the game that we're playing, they just used to be so repetitive and tiring. As far as I'm concerned, not that much likable nor enjoyable. And map of the game is also going to be bigger, but bigger isn't always better. Are we going to have more repetitive side missions as well? I hope not, because this is a part that they can really shine. And another question that bugs me would be, if Peter loses the symbiote, so where would all the ability points we invested to go? just poof into the thin air. One of the most interesting things about how Black Suit Peter would be represented in this game is that he will have Miles by his side, and everything that he says or does will not only be first-hand experienced by Miles, but he will also be there to help him. Unlike the Web of Shadows game where Peter had some allies, but all they could do was talk, at the end of the day hope for the best as the city kept on being devoured by the whole symbiotic apocalypse-ish vibe. We saw in the Miles Morales game how Harry was being handled regarding the symbiote, and how Peter gets it will surely have a deeper emotional connection for him. And they also gave us a teaser of Dr. Connors the Lizard in that. Kraven is also one of the villains that could go wrong as his design in the eyes of the viewer, but it seems like they're going for a more version of Kraven that is solely after being the best predator and hunter out there, and that is what seemingly he is trying to prove in this game. Something that I hope we get at least an explanation for in this game is that there seem to be Avengers and other heroes that do exist in this universe, according to the previous games, but like Spider-Man has his own bubble. This sounds weird, but while Avengers do exist in this game, we don't see any sort of news of them. At least in the Spider-Man Web of Shadows, Peter tried to reach for Stark or Reed Richards. Maybe the threats are never big enough for them to get involved, but any form of news would be nice. This universe is big enough to carry huge stories and events without a single Avenger or outside party showing up to make things more interesting. And the fact that Spider-Man can take on massive threats by himself is really interesting. He also gets help from his friend group sometimes. I also noticed in the trailer that Peter doesn't treat Miles like a douche, but is dismissive of him. And also noticed that besides anger, there was also a pinch of anxiety, and Venom reacts to all these emotions. And maybe instead of Peter removing his suit himself, perhaps this is a version of a story where Miles forces it off of him, and it would be an interesting change if Peter at first wanted to keep the suit like some sort of an addiction after Miles fights it off him. Or maybe Spidey will start to seriously hurt villains and Miles will confront Peter over the symbiote giving him aggression. They will fight started by Pete and he nearly kills Miles off and realizes that what he has done and will reject the symbiote somehow, obviously through loud sonic sound or heat. And one thing that caught my eye at the end of the trailer was it kept saying be greater together, and together part was being absorbed by the symbiote and shortly after the electricity removed it. What I'm saying is that it could be a hint for Miles versus Peter fight and how Miles would win by removing the symbiote out of Peter by his new power. In the last trailer we saw, Kraven was asking someone to give him the challenge he was looking for, and ironically it was neither Peter nor Miles that answered him, but it was Venom. Intihar also confirmed that the dark suit will keep on evolving in the game, and since it's an organic matter, it keeps on changing over time, and we'll definitely see how that affects Peter, his emotions, and maybe eventually even the gameplay. And I just love how we're going to see different versions of Black Suit depending on what suit you have underneath it. It's going to be pretty amazing. What's your opinion about all of this? Share it with me in the comments down below. I would love to know. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Leave a like and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye bye!
Demons call when they do what they do, and now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find